People that have been there for ages.
We don't go there a lot, but we'll go there every other month or so and sit in the bar with Ed, the bartender, who's always been great.
He's gone.
Who are?
And when we ordered, they, first of all, I made it for 6:30. They called, said, "Can you come in at 6?" I said, "Yeah, we can at the home. We've got a big party." And I said, "Hell, there were 3 people in there." I mean, it was bizarre.
That is craziness.
And maybe he was gone for the night, but I don't think so. 'Cause they didn't know shit.
Recording in progress.
And word of that will spread fast.
Recording stopped.
We ready? 10 o'clock, all right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the special meeting of the Village of Ruidoso Village Council as of today, Tuesday, July 29th at 10 a.m. I'll call this meeting to order, and please stand with me for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the state flag. God give protection to all in any harm's way today and the rest of the year and for the next 10 years. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Thank you. Jenny, can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Salas,
Here.
Councilor Eby,
Here.
Councilor Letterman. Here. Councilor Hooker,
Here.
Councilor Jackson,
Here.
Councilor Corey.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem, you have a quorum.
Thank you. The mayor's in another meeting going on right now at this time too in his office, so that's why he asked me to fill in for him. First item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2025-24, a resolution amending the fiscal year 25 budget, quarter ending June 30th, 2025, for certain funds and application to the local government division of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration for approval thereof. Ms. Judy.
Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem Council. This is our 4th adjustment to the budget, and this will be the actual closeout of the fiscal year 2025 budget. Budget expenditures increased by 6.1 million. And we will go ahead and proceed to the sheet that is listed, scheduled budget adjustments from DFA. This is the one that gives out the categories by fund and describes what each of the adjustments was for. So if everybody's on that sheet, we'll go ahead and start.
Is that the DFA quarterly report?
It's the
The resolution
Resolution.
report
Okay.
is
thank
where I
you.
found it.
Thank you.
So we'll start off with the general fund. Revenues did increase 3,429,000. This was because we received the receipt of the fiscal year 2024 letter grant receipt. And then we will not only record it in revenues, but we'll see it later down in expenditures. Transfers increased by 28,910. One of them was for a transfer from the intergovernmental grant match for Moon Mountain at 25,660. I had double booked the grant match 2 times. And so when we were closing out the grants, both on the Lynx and Moon Mountain, I discovered that. So this is just paying the extra payment that I messed up on. We actually closed out and paid off the New Mexico loan PPRF to 2287, which was for the fire trucks. And after we had paid off the loan, there was an excess of $3,250 in cash from the finance authority. So we're just paying it back to the general fund. The expenditures increased by $43,189. It was for purchase of an EMS trailer and a tent for triage. This is in preparation for Xterra. It's like a mobile command center, just a trailer. We had some savings in planning and zoning because we had budgeted the continuation of the comprehensive plan, the update. In the budget, however, they decided to do it next year, and it's already in the budget for next year, so we were able to reduce some of their expenditures by $95,240 to pay for those two items. And we also put in a transfer from the general fund to the RJU building, or RJU Enterprise Fund, for the engineering on Rainier for the sewer line. So what's happening now is, in joint utilities right now, water has a designated revenue stream for their grant matches, and that comes from the SGRT and the GEO bonds. But now that Water Trust Board is opening up to sewer projects, we're probably not gonna be able to meet the matches within RJU because they're running a little bit tight as we get a reduction on our customer base because of the fire and floods. So going forward, we'll probably have to match any sewer line project with general fund monies. But later on in the presentation, you can see that we ended the general fund with like $9 million. Out of that 9 million, we just have to keep 2 million on reserve for the 12% that's required by the state. So we might want to set aside X amount of dollars to place up for grant matches or things that might come up. We did talk about it during the budget hearings, if you recall, but at that point, I think I had only set aside like 500,000. If we really get serious and start going after water trust boards, they usually do a 90% grant and a 10% loan. So we'll probably have to figure out how much that 10% of whatever our projects are. So it's probably going to be more than that 500,000. So at some point going forward, we'll probably have to designate some money coming from the general fund in order to take care of those matches.
Judy, you mentioned the 12%. Does that include what, I thought at one
I'm sorry,
time-
it's 8%.
It's 8, but didn't the council at one time approve raising it?
So
Is that
if you
abundance of
recall
caution?
during the budget hearings, we brought that up, and I believe, Rifle, you had said that the extra percentage was at a time when there was some uncertainty with the books and the financials. And we had talked about that since we had not dipped into it for some time now, that we might instead want to set aside some money for grant matches and stuff like that. So in the budget for 26, I did not include the extra percentage that we had been before. But we could, if we would like to, and restrict it to grant matches or whatever we might want.
And then you talked about some of the projects related to wastewater. But the FEMA damage hopefully will be, the flood damage hopefully will
Yes.
be covered by FEMA, and we won't
Yes.
be out of pocket.
Councilor Corey, Mayor Pro Tem, you are absolutely correct. So what happens is the general fund designates some money to the disaster until we know whether we're going to have a presidential declaration and whether FEMA is going to come in and obligate funding. So at that point, we do set aside some money from the general fund. However, once we're declared and FEMA is saying that they're going to obligate money, that money goes back to the general fund. And then any expenditures going forward and up to that point will be paid by FEMA. But again, you got to remember that that money's not coming in quick.
Yeah.
So although we're not going to pay it out of general fund, there still has to be some kind of loan until you get those funds back.
Judy,
So-
how do we pay it if we don't have, if we're not paying it up front as the service is waiting for FEMA to come in? So it's just a minus until we get those funds?
So, Councilor Letterman and Mayor Pro Tem, we got saved by the DFA loan that they put up front for the monies that were gonna have to be matches on the South Fork fire, because we did spend out of general fund revenue, is at that point, is what you could call it, that 3.2 million.
Yeah,
So what happened is, once we got that 22 million, that money replaced the money from the general fund. And so until we get the obligation and the money back, it's actually coming out of DFA. But it's gonna be the same situation on the monsoon, is that until that point, it's technically coming out of the general fund until we get the money back and stuff.
What was your experience last year with FEMA and the funding?
You don't wanna ask me about FEMA.
It isn't a Christian town.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas
That's
and
like a trick question.
members of the council on the Water Trust Board projects, we're also going to be, when we apply, we currently have about 11 projects that we want to apply for, maybe a couple more. Is we're going to do the match waiver. We're going to request a match waiver. We may not receive it, but we're going to at least try that. And so, and we'll go from there and do that. And we did receive our 2 grant agreements from DFA yesterday. We sent those back to be fully executed, and like Judy said, we're working on these projects, so.
So Counselor Corey and Mayor Pro Tem, just to answer your question about FEMA, if we could find any other funding source, we would go that route.
Because of the delays.
Because of the delays, the amount of paperwork you have to have, the process, you have to go to the state and get their blessing before you even get the money. So if there's any other way we could get a project funded, like Ron did with DFA grants to do some of the pro pipe, we would rather go that way, because those are slam dunks.
yeah.
You don't have all the red tape and stuff.
Plus, even if you have a project that FEMA, they have to approve it.
Yes. Not only do they have to approve it, you got to get your procurement approved, you have to get everything approved,
Right.
even before you go to build it.
Yeah. Okay.
The next ones are, the transfers out, increased by 2.8 million. We did a transfer from the general fund to affordable housing for the match on Elk Meadows at $1 million, and to 603 Meacham at $1 million. We also transferred to the SURF, the fire RMP reimbursements, 200,369. Those are the funds that when our fire department goes out to fight fires in other places, we're paid back not only for personnel time, but for machine time or equipment time. So that equipment time is transferred to the SURF so that they can save it, because when they have to buy a fire truck, the price tag is already so high that that's just the truck. It's not all the hoses and the nozzles and everything. So we set aside their money so that they have extra money to outfit the truck and stuff,
Right.
so. We also transferred to intergovernmental grants. When we were doing Starlight, we ran out of legislative appropriations for McBride at $82,000, so that was just the general fund finishing up the Starlight project. However, when we went through the notice of obligations and the actual reconciliation, we found an extra 30, so we're not gonna pay the 82, it's gonna be less than that by the time we're done. We also did transfer to the monsoon, 500,000, but now since we have the presidential declaration, that won't appear in the budget anymore, because we will actually have a federal grant and state grant match. And then, of course, the transfer to the sewer line repair on Rainier at $95,240. Going forward to SGRT expenditures increased 973,000. It was for the stream gauges at North Fork Well at 64,000. There was an increase to the watershed base plan at 90,460, and that is actually funded by a grant. The leak detection survey for 10 years at 332,280, and water tanks phase 1 needed an additional 390,123, and then we did set aside some monies for the Cree Meadows drainage at $90,685.
How does that come under the definition of the SGRT?
Because it's coming out of the watershed part.
So the watershed.
So SGRT is not only the SGRT 1%, it's also, if you recall, about 2 fiscal years or so, we took a fourth of the environmental GRT, and we were setting it aside for watershed.
Okay,
So in SGRT, you not only have the 1%, which is truly water infrastructure only, you also have some environmental GRT that's set aside for watershed. That's where they did some drainage at Horton with it, and we're
Okay.
doing a lot of the drainage plans out of those funds.
okay.
So where is Cree Meadows drainage?
I believe it was this project here, right? Ron?
Where
Going
Innsbruck
through-
is at is,
Oh,
Mayor Pro Tem
oh,
Salas,
that one,
count-
yes.
yes, the one just right over here.
Okay,
By the,
got it.
where the little
Yes.
wooden bridge is at.
Yeah, okay.
LERF, Law Enforcement Retention Fund. If you recall, about 3 years ago, DFA went to the legislature and set aside monies for police retention. This is actually the third year and the final year. So we pay retention stipends out of it, and it increased both revenues and expenditures at $112,500. On the gas tax, which is the streets fund, we're budgeting the fiscal year 2025 co-op at $250,774, and the fiscal year 2024 co-op at $192,808. Those are both increasing the revenues and the expenditures by the same amount. You'll see the transfer in on intergovernmental grants from the general fund on the McBride match at $82,012. And then the legislative appropriation for the Starlight repair was $81,312, increasing the expenditures. And then, of course, you'll see the excess match on Moon Mountain transferred back to the general fund. On FEMA, we are budgeting the legislative appropriation, $1.8 million. This was for flood damage that we had got, I think, 3 years ago, and we barely got the agreement this fiscal year. So that's getting in the budget, and then the transfer in, of course, for the monsoon season at $500,000. And then, of course, expenditures increased by the legislative appropriation for flood damage at 1.8, and the monsoon at 500,000. We were doing the Cutler project of the paving out of the 1.8, and in that legislative appropriation, we can recoup our VOR match on the sewer line and bridges from our expenditures from fiscal 2023 to current off this grant. So currently, we're waiting to see if they're gonna approve the notice of obligation. So between those two projects, we'll have that legislative appropriation almost spent down. On the General Capital Improvement Fund, 1.9 is increasing revenues and expenditures, and it's for the 2024 TPF funds. And I'm not sure what road that is.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas, members of the council, this is for the current project that Cutler's working on the, how many streets is that, Adam? 5 or 6? Wingfield,
they're finishing up Wingfield now.
yes.
Is what I believe.
It's
Jack
Wingfield,
Little.
Hoare, White Mountain, Jack Little, L.O. Davis, and Leon Farrar.
And White Mountain Drive.
White Mountain Drive, yeah, sorry.
And we're gonna go to geo bonds, and that is just paying out the excess funds on the fire truck loan that we closed. And then on geo bonds, we had to budget the the Series 2024 geo bond principal 10,000 and interest at 24,520. On RJU, you're gonna see the transfer in and the expenditure for the sewer line repair at Rainier. And then on the airport, we're budgeting a state grant, which is 100% state covered. It's for the PER for the terminal building at 152,000. You'll see the transfer in for the matches at Elk Meadows at 1 million and Meacham at 1 million too. And then, of course, on the treatment plant, the revenues and expenditures increased by 25,110, and that was a state reimbursement for the hydro seeding at the racetrack. So those are all the adjustments for the end of the year. If you have any questions.
On, where are we at on 603 Meacham, Ron, as far as opening?
Mayor Pro Tem Salas, Councilor Corey, I'll have Mike give you a update on that.
So Mayor Pro Temp and council members, we're currently at an all-stop right now. The state is doing an evaluation of some of the retaining walls that went in. Permits were not pulled by the engineer when the walls actually went up. And so the state CID is reviewing that permitting process, and they're making sure that they make any adjustments as needed to make sure the product that we get is to code and has any drainage that's required. And so once that ends, I'm hoping it'll be finished by the next week. They'll make the adjustments. That should take about an additional week and a half to 2 weeks from what we're gathering, pending weather, and then we can go ahead and start up that process again. The last things that are needed are just the fencing and the landscaping, yes. Outside of that, the fences just need to be repaired.
How do we miss the fact they didn't pull permits?
So we don't review permitting based on the construction process because it's our facility. The state actually has to do all of the permitting. When they did the original inspections, the inspector that was here from the state should have identified those permits. They did not. The superintendent of permitting was actually out here 2 days after the flood, and when they saw the wall had sloughed over, they asked where the inspector that was on site, where the permits were at. That inspector had to say, I didn't see permits, and then that triggered it. So it was.
We don't issue ourselves.
No, sir. We do not issue our own permits. That was a state issue.
So Mayor Pro Tem Salas, Councilor Corey, with the rain events we had, it caused some damage. There was any type of drainage on those barrier walls, so.
But it looks like the ground areas stayed relatively dry.
For the most part, I know we're working on the entryways. I use myself as an example. I've gotten stuck 3 times in that area. The car sinks roughly about, I'd say probably 6 inches, and I've already been lectured on not having 4-wheel drive. So I've learned my lesson on that as well. But we're hoping that once we actually get the walls fixed, the next approach is going to be looking at oiled millings, because we know that if millings just go in, they'll sink. And so that's been a lesson that we've learned fairly quickly. We're going to try and adapt to that and get a better roadway or road path in. So we'll work with Adam on that.
I move that we accept, that we adopt Resolution 2025-24.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Judy.
Item number 2.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Pro Tem, I just had a question of Judy. Backing up to the Water Trust Board, we have the 90-10 split, and the 10, I believe, is a loan. Do we have a sense of what the percentage on that loan will be? Is it another one of those 0.01 or?
Honestly, Counselor Jackson, Mayor Pro Tem, I haven't actually looked because with SGRT money, we usually pay the loan as soon as the project's done.
Right.
But I would imagine it's like a 3% or lower. But I'm not sure if, Ron, if you recall what it's a low percent.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Jackson, we'll look into that. I know on some of the funding, you can get what's the wording they use? You get a forgiveness on it.
Yeah.
And you're able to either get a grant or you get a reduced rate on the loan.
Sure. Thank you.
Item number 2, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2025-25, a resolution approving the final quarter fiscal report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. an application to the Local Government Division of the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration for the approval thereof.
This is the last DFA report. I prepare this report quarterly, however, by statute, the only one that comes to council is this last one. But this is reviewed each quarter by the IFC, and we prepare this. And what this report does, it just leaves a pathway that shows what you started out the fiscal year with, your current year revenues today, transfers, expenditures, and the adjustments are just getting the adjustments from our modified accrual basis of accounting back to a true cash balance, so that whatever the ending cash balance is what's in our funds. So what DFA is looking for is to make sure that you're not overdrawing the cash on any particular fund on what you're paying out or what's included in your year-to-date payment. So as you can see in column that's labeled number 8, if you look down, the total number of cash in the village at the end of the fiscal year was 74,840,000. Did I scare you?
For a minute, yeah,
Scare you?
74,000.
Isn't it?
Judy, get another cup of
I
coffee.
know, right? I know, this gloomy weather. $74,840,227, so. And if you have any questions, I can answer.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move approval of adoption of Resolution 2025-25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
And there was just a couple of things. The June monthly report is out, and I just wanted to bring some highlights from the report. On GRT, we actually ended up, and this isn't including the payback of GRT, we ended up the fiscal year at $20,824,000, which was over our budget of about $2 million. And if we included the payback, we actually ended up at $21 million. So that's good. Another point in the report is if you look at lodger's tax, I know we had been really seeing some big drops, but at the end, we kind of finished pretty strong. We ended up with 2.1 million in lodger's tax receipts, which wasn't bad considering we had budgeted 2.6 million in revenues, and that means we were only 500,000 down off budget. So considering the year that we had, I think we came out pretty good in lodger's tax, so. We were able to make all the payments to Xterra, Ironman, and we paid in full the contract to New Mexico True already, so we're good, and we have about 1.8 million in cash balance.
Great, that's good news.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Judy, I know that some people's eyes cross-eyed when they see all of these facts and figures, but you're always spot on, and it's very nice to have someone who can present it, know where it's at and where it isn't, and present it in such a way that we won't be looking at an unfavorable audit, because you won't. You'll have it right there.
Yeah,
It
thank
is
you.
nice.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Judy.
Yes, thank you. Item number 3, discussion and possible action of adoption of Resolution 2025-26, a resolution accepting a Rural Air Service Enhancement Grant Agreement, project number SRR 26-02, from the New Mexico Department of Transportation Aviation Division in the amount not to exceed $3 million.
Good morning.
Morning, Lee.
Morning.
Y'all doing all right?
Yes.
Within reason is what I say.
Within reason, I understand. So we have received this race grant. It's Rural Air Service, and it's $3 million. It's a 90-10, and it's good for, it's a 2-year grant, and it can be extended for 3 more years, pending the state reissuing the funds for this grant.
Lee, forgive my ignorance, what can we use this grant for?
That's gonna be on the next item.
Oh, okay.
So it's for, to bring in rural air service. So we're trying to get an airline to come in here and service us from here to, whichever city we decide to go to.
I recall, and maybe Counselor Corey, it was back then
Yeah,
too.
I was,
Mesa Airline was
Yeah,
here.
and I was chairman of Fly Ruidoso
Right.
when we were trying to get American Airlines in. Lee, one of the problems we encountered was the altitude and the temperature variations. And American came back and said, even if we came, we can't guarantee the passengers can bring their golf clubs or skis. So that's when we partnered up with
Roswell, that's what I
Do you
didn't know
recall
that
what-
about the altitude and stuff. It's just,
Has there been any discussion? Has there been any talks with any airlines to speak of?
Yes, sir. Let's set the next item up
Okay.
is
Very well.
for
With Advanced Air?
Advanced Air.
Okay.
So,
What's the airline that's flying from Albuquerque to Cruces?
advanced.
Okay, okay.
So just a little bit of backstory to what the grant is. So actively, the state of New Mexico is trying to increase aviation across the board for multiple communities, rural air communities. The governor's office established the RAISE grant to be able to assist smaller communities to get local air services for those rural communities. So you're starting to see things like Gallup, they fly to places like Albuquerque, LA, DFW, Phoenix, locations like that. But for example, Santa Teresa, Las Cruces, Gallup, where's the other? Belen, and there's about 5 others that qualify for the RAISE grant that are currently flying to other locations. With this award, what ends up happening is the village actually fits into that bigger program. There is one major, if not 2 providers that meet the RAISE grant requirements that are flying to other locations like DFW, like Las Vegas, like Albuquerque, and Phoenix. And those are where, once you receive the grant, you usually go out for bid as a parallel service for that air service to be provided. And so what the grant does is it funds the air service at 90/10. So once you get this commitment from the grant at $3 million, we would have to come up with that 10% to be able to match whatever the airlines is that would come in to offset that cost to provide that service. So that just kind of moves us into the realm of being able to play ball. Now it's figuring out who we go with, if that's the next step that the council would like to take.
Would this essentially be a revenue guarantee?
Yes, for the airline provider. Yes, sir.
And how long would that last?
For 2 years. So ultimately, the grant is 2 years. You usually structure any agreements in the future for that same amount of time. Or you have the document, or the wording, in the contract that says, if we run out of funds, then that service would stop for the following year.
So the revenue guarantee would be capped at $3 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there's the potential that they would need all the $3 million?
The likelihood is that they build a structure around the 3 million so that they would maximize your grant.
Mr., go ahead.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2025-26.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No? Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call?
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Thank you. Item number 4, discussion and possible action on award of RFP 2025-0013P to Advance Air LLC for air service operator for the Sierra Blanca Regional Airport.
Now you can tell me.
Now we could hear about this Advance Air.
Okay, so we put it out an RFP for air service provider. We had 2 show interest, but 1 actually turned in all the paperwork to do it. And we had our committee meetings, and they met all the criteria that we put in our RFP. So the committee chose to elect Advanced Air to be our provider. And we're looking at Albuquerque or Phoenix. So
What
that's,
type of aircraft do they use, Lee?
it will be a King Air 350 or a Pilatus PC-12,
And what is the
So-
seating capacity?
9-passenger. And the King Air 350 is a dual prop, turboprop, and the Pilatus PC-12 is a single turboprop.
Do
They
you,
both have,
do you recall or know of the, of the success that Roswell had with their program when they had the partnership to fly in and out of Phoenix? Because we were doing a price guarantee on that also, or revenue guarantee.
I don't know what Roswell's success was.
Yeah,
I had heard it.
I just wonder what
What
kind of
profitable.
success they had with Phoenix.
Now, they tried Phoenix and they tried LA and
So the,
either.
Mayor Pro Temp and Council, the items that we're moving with on the RAISE grant, RAISE has shown extreme success across the state, which is why they're continuing to fund it. The 2 locations that are proposed, there was data analysis done on travel sections for what the areas are. What they identified is what you already know that Carrie has presented to you. Our 2 biggest, outside of El Paso, our 2 biggest areas that we see people come in from, and the DFW area are Albuquerque and are Phoenix. And so those locations seem to meet the criteria. The reason DFW wasn't there is they didn't have a provider that was going back and forth at the time for that specific service. And so they aligned our data from tourism specifically to this location and said, these are going to be your 2 key areas. From a Roswell perspective, we're not sure what that looks like, but they have, they are a participant of the RAISE program. They've been continuing to move that process forward. After the first 2 years, it's a 50-50, and they've been able to sustain that based on the revenues that they're generating from the airlines. So there's at least been some level of break even, which is the goal that we're trying to push for. At the point that we end the initial grant, then we move to how does that 50-50 look? Is it really cost effective for us to continue that service? And if it is, then we would move forward with that because that's the revenues that are being generated specifically from the flights. So that's what we would be focusing on.
It is too bad that they don't go to Dallas, DFW, because that's, I mean, when Tom and I are going that way, we go to Roswell.
We're working on that for you.
And this RAISE grant is to help subsidize the flights. So it's basically to help build up the service and within hopes of the service being able to sustain itself.
Yeah.
I'll entertain the motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, move to award RFP 2025-0013, P as in Paul.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? None? Roll call, please.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Lee, can we reach out to the county and see if they could throw some money in?
They won't,
Well,
but, I mean, we can, definitely. try to get them in.
Would that hurt the grant, though?
Oh, it would go towards our 10%,
Yeah, that's the part.
or
You know,
the 10%.
Supposedly, they're gonna get all this wind revenue,
Yep.
so. Doesn't hurt to ask.
That's true.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It doesn't hurt him to ask.
He could ask. That was the last item on the agenda. Thank you all for attending. This meeting is adjourned.
Judy,
Judy.
please, ma'am. I got an email from a guy who lives